Welcome to the latest episode of Beyond CX with Box Fusion. I'm Andy Stevens. Today I again have with me Caroline Carruthers. Caroline, welcome.
Hi Andy, nice to meet you again.
I might just ask you to introduce yourself for those who haven't seen your previous appearance on this show.
Hi everybody, I'm Caroline Carruthers. I'm the Chief Exec of Carruthers & Jackson. I'm also the co-author of a few books on data, so the Chief Data Officer's Playbook, which was the first book ever written for Chief Data Officers, Halo Data, which is the latest one, and Data-Driven Business Transformation, which I snuck in the middle there and almost forgot the title of my own book. That's really bad, isn't it? I would call myself a data cheerleader, but it's because I think it has an awful lot of power of helping us solve big problems around the world.
Thanks, Caroline. So, when I spoke to you before, we had these two books here on the table, but you just mentioned your third book, and I think where I wanted to kick off was you say in there that actually data doesn't really have value, and that's not what organisations tell me or people tell me. So maybe I thought you should come on and explain yourself.
I will happily come on and explain myself, Andy. I get that conventional wisdom at the moment, everybody is talking about valuing data. And for me, it was a little bit of a light bulb moment, because while we're talking about valuing data, I'm still working with a lot of organisations who are struggling to do that. And it was one of those moments where you went, I think we've got it not quite right, because my argument is that it's not the data itself that holds the value. It's actually the problem that you solve. So in quite crude terms, it's not what you've got, it's what you do with it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it's not the data, it's the problem that you're looking to solve. So I guess in terms of some of the big organizations that you work with, what would be some of the examples of taking somebody on that journey from what they thought the value of data was to really where the value was?
So to start with it, I think if you're talking to, for instance, a data broker who is selling data, the people that are buying the data in that particular circumstance aren't buying it because that data has an intrinsic value and they want to just store it. They're buying it because they want to do something with it. So there's the problem they solved that they have decided is worth investing in this data to do something with. And for an organisation, if we come back to that purpose question that you and I have spoken about a few times, if you understand the purpose, then you start and articulate the problem that you're trying to solve. So the reason why we christened the book Halo Data is both myself and Peter got far too involved in physics. In fact, physics and quantum physics. And I have to say that is not my natural field of study. So there was many nights poring over books going, what have I got myself into? But it just helped because I'm a big fan of big borrow and stealing where we can. So if physics have figured this out, then I'm more than happy to try and copy it and bring it into the data and technology space for us to use. And when we got into the whole concept of Halo data and quantum data, it was that understanding that there is a different way of thinking about it. And as soon as you think about it in a different way, concepts like the valuing makes it much simpler to deal with. To give you an example, the whole idea of quantum data is that data can exist in multiple states at exactly the same time, which we know to be true. So if you have a book in a library, you know the book is still the same book. The data exists, but you can index it by author, you can index it by title, you can index it by subject matter, but the book's still in exactly the same place. And in organisations, data is held in exactly the same way. So depending on the question that you're asking it, the data can give you a different value to that solution. Does that make sense? I
think it does, yeah.
Excellent.
So practically then, what should an organisation be doing to sort of take action and once they've conceptually understood that, what are the next steps to?
Well, this is where it gets easy, because it's what problems do they want to solve? Because at that point in time, you're not valuing the data because you have some kind of esoteric or unintangible thing to put a figure on. You're valuing the problem that it's going to solve, and then therefore you know how much effort and time and resources to put into looking after that data and solving that kind of problem. And for instance, a really simple example would be if you know, for instance, you are not making the right kind of decisions, or it's taking you hours to make a decision that could be quite simple. That particular aspect would be, let's go back to basics. What is the data that you need to solve that problem? That's the data that you then need to value and make sure that that's what's given to the people in a timely manner, in a digestible format, and gives them the full length of story that they need to actually make the decision with.
I see. Okay, thank you. And I'm just thinking, you described yourself at the beginning as a data cheerleader, and I guess chief data officers within organisations become hopefully cheerleaders as well for data. But I'm sure that collectively you come up against individuals or groups of individuals within organisations who don't necessarily understand or see data and see the problems in the way that you do. How do you work with other people in an organisation to come round to understand the problem you're trying to solve and the value of that?
Well, interestingly enough, when I'm working with organisations, the first conversation I have with people, I try not to use the data word. So if I'm working with a CFO or a head of architecture or anybody else that we're working with in an organisation, the kind of questions that I ask them are, what keeps them awake at night? What are they striving to do? What are their ambitions for their department or area, for themselves personally? And those are the kind of things that we look at. It's my responsibility to help them use this great asset that is data to solve those. They don't have to be an expert in data. They just have to be an expert in what they do. And it's about coming together and actually using a collective set of skills and experience to be able to solve those problems for them.
Sounds very sensible. Thanks very much, Caroline. Thanks for coming on and talking to us again today. And hopefully see you again.
Thank you very much.
And thanks very much for joining us on this latest episode of Beyond CX. Thank you.